Welcome back to the channel. Dodge just dropped off the replacement rotors for the Hellcat station wagon. So I've been waiting for these not too long. I'm surprised that they came so quick, but I'm going to do what I did last time and blast them in 100 grit aluminum oxide. And like I said before, there's a reason I do this, because I'm going to coat them in C7600 Cerakote, which is very good at dissipating heat and also with thermal shock. So I really like doing it, even though a lot of people are saying, well, when you drive it, it's going to instantly wear off the faces where the pads are. Yes, it is going to do that, but the rest of the rotor that isn't in contact with the friction material is still going to be coated. So it's going to help with that heat dissipation and the thermal shock in the vanes and all that stuff. So, and it's also going to help with rust, which I'm trying to mitigate. Most of the time, you know, my Hellcat sits in the garage, the rotors never rust in between, you know, the time I drive it. So it's nice. But the hub mounting surface is just bare, and they do rust. Obviously, you guys saw the ones that came off the car that are back on the car. This hub surface, it's not coated. Dodge doesn't coat it. They just pretty much do the bare minimum, and they don't do a very good job. I know people are going to be like, why are you saying bad stuff about Dodge? But it's true. So we have the inside of the parking brake mounting, or the parking brake shoe surface. A lot of people are saying the old rotors that I got, or the damaged ones, they're like, well, those were just used rotors. No, these things come with a pretty rough surface. Like, really rough. Like, it's a pretty decent crosshatch. I don't know. I mean, you want your parking brakes to grab, and this one is actually true. So is the other one, because both of these, luckily enough, aren't damaged. I was really worried about that one that had the parking brake shoe. I would have had to turn that, and I didn't want to have to do that. But we have two good rotors. So what I'm going to do first is blast both of these things and get them ready to Cerakote with the C7600. I now have the rear rotors blasted in 100 grit aluminum oxide. I blew them off with air, and then I rinsed them off with acetone. It is recommended to let them sit in acetone, but I don't have a tank yet, so it would be really nice to do that, but rinsing them off is also really good. So these were already coated. They weren't coated in oil like most rotors come, but it is highly recommended to let them sit in acetone or bake them to, I think, 300 degrees. We'll also get the oil out. What I'm going to do now is shake up this C7600 Glacier Black Cerakote. I'll put a link in the description for this. Shake it up for a little bit. This doesn't have a catalyst, so all you do is pour this directly in the gun. It shows you the strainer, 100 mesh strainer right there that you need, and you just spray it on, one coat and go. So what I'm going to do, since these are really heavy and I don't have a stand yet that works well with heavy stuff, I'm going to spray the front faces, let them dry, flip them over, and then spray the back. So I think that'll work really well. Let's get these coated. And also another way to coat round things and rotors like this is to have like a turntable that turns, and then you could just, you know, you could just coat it as it turns, and it works very well. Cerakoted rear rotors have now had a chance to cure, and for the Cerakote, the air cure, you need to allow it 24 hours to cure, and then if you're going to ship it, I would, it recommends 5 days. But since we're throwing them on the car, and the only thing that's going to be touching something really is, or the only thing that's going to wear off is this face, and it most likely is going to wear off in about 5 feet. So it's a ceramic coating. It's not going to have any issues clogging the pads. As you can see down here, it got all coated in the veins. It's all nice and coated. So the good thing about that is when I'm driving the car, this surface is going to clear off, but everything else is still going to be coated, and that's going to help with controlling that heat. So let's get these on the car. The rear of the car is now all buttoned up, minus the bleeder screws. I ordered some M10 by 1.0, and it's the wrong thread pitch. So I need to figure out what thread pitch that is, order the correct ones, and then we'll be 100% buttoned up mechanically in the rear of the car. I still need to do the wiring harness. The parking brake still needs to be connected, but in the back it's already connected. It just needs to be ran to the pedal on the front. And then the exhaust, like I said, I'm going to go over to Hayden's, and most likely we'll put it on his lift and do the exhaust there, just so I can lift the car up and do it instead of crawling underneath it and trying to weld it here, because I'm really sketched out still about this lift, like I've said multiple times. But we have the Cerakoted rear rotor, and this is not painted. This is a ceramic coating. It's Cerakote. I'll put a link in the description. A lot of people were like, why did you paint your rotor? They thought I painted in normal paint. You can already see I turned it a little bit, and it's already wearing the coating off on the face. But anything the pads aren't touching is going to stay coated, like this face here, inside the veins, the top, going to make it look really nice. Also, it's going to perform well because it helps with dissipating heat, and it has a bunch of other properties. So I want to try this out on like the DA Integra when I turn it into a track car, because then I could do one rotor that's coated, one rotor that's not, do a 30-minute session at the road course, and then see how, you know, how they are dissipating heat against each other. But I'm really happy with how everything is working. We have the pads in here. We have the stainless steel brake line. It just goes right in there really nice, connected to the brake lines back there. We have the axle, and I had to order another lower mount for the coilover. So I didn't have to actually order it because I designed the suspension at the ride height and then I had it drooping about a foot. So what happened was all of the suspension geometry, because it was so far down, this thing was a monster truck, it had like 6 inches or a foot of wheel gap, it moved the axle towards the coilover. So once I moved it to the correct position, we're now back to the Lexus lower mount and everything clears perfectly. So I'm really happy about that. I want to throw the wheels on here now and see how it's going to look. I also need to go and have this thing aligned. So it's really hard to throw a wheel on here and not have an alignment because I don't know if it's correct and without it being aligned on a machine. It's easy to use tape measures, but you can still be off on caster and a bunch of other settings, which I really want this thing to perform well at the drag strip and the road course and a bunch of stuff like that. So I need to have this thing aligned, but I need to have it aligned so I could order wheels, because if I order wheels and then they're the incorrect offset, then we have a real problem. Then I have to go and order wheels again. So let's throw the Cerakote wheels with the Hellcat tires on there really quick and look at the offset. I think we're gonna be pretty close in the rears. This is awesome. I'm finally happy to see this thing at the ride height once again. Obviously, it isn't slammed to the ground. It also still is on the lift, but I want to retain a pretty close wheel to wheel or tire to wheel flare gap, because this is going to be a very fast car. And I don't want to have any issues where the tire is going to rub that flare. Plus, I want to be able to actually enjoy this car. I plan on driving it around. I plan on driving it a lot, driving it across the country, etc. So I don't want to have this thing slammed to the ground. Plus, I like all my cars to be, and that's what all my builds kind of revolve around, is being functional, being able to use them at the track, at the strip. I don't like to build cars that are just, you know, take them to a car show, they just sit there, then they go back to your garage and you never drive them on the road. And if you do, you end up like ripping your oil pan off. So I really want to be able to drive this thing, and I want to be able to rip it and not have to worry about bottoming out on stuff, etc. So I'm really happy that she's looks so much better. I need to get this thing on an alignment rack. It looks like the toe is pretty close and the caster is pretty close, but without having it on a rack, there's no way to really tell. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do. I could order some tools to do it here, but it's a lot easier to just take it to the alignment shop and just have them dial it in with the settings that I want. I'm gonna try to keep camber in the rear to a minimum, so I have as much tire on the ground, even though this thing is all-wheel drive. But you can see right now the tires are very flat to the ground. So we're gonna need a little bit wider meats on there though, because those are only 305s. I'm gonna have 315s on here, so we'll go from the 10-inch wide wheels to 11s. And that's another thing why I want to get alignment, because I need to figure out what the offset's going to be. So I need to have everything set up so then I could order the wheels and go from there. I think I have a pretty good idea of what wheels I'm going to get. They're going to be a very similar style to this wheel, but a little bit more aggressive, and they're going to be, you know, the right lug pattern, the right offset, and the right width. So I'm going to end the video here. Super happy that this thing is finally coming together. I know a lot of people always say, why is this build taking so long? And I think the same thing. I'm like, I wish this thing was done. I wish it was driving, and I can't wait to finally fire her up for the first time. And it's getting very, very close. So if you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.